Hi there, Facebook. Skip Bayless coming to you live from West Los Angeles, about a mile up Avenue of the Stars from where we will do Undisputed tomorrow morning here at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Time, 9:30 Eastern until noon Eastern on Fox Sports 1. It's going to be a tough one for me because that was a debacle. For me, that was harder to watch than the thing at Denver, that 42-17 thing at Denver. I really thought Dallas would win this game. I thought early on Dallas was going to win this game. But I did say on Friday, on Undisputed, I told Shannon, Sharpe, and I believe I told Eric Dickerson, both of whom will be on tomorrow, that Tyron Smith was a bigger loss than Ezekiel Elliott. I thought with Alfred Morris they could get by. I thought with a little bit of Rod Smith and a little dash of Darren McFadden, they could just get by. They could keep Atlanta's defense relatively honest. And the last thing in the world I thought was that Chaz Green was going to turn into an historically bad liability at left tackle. Again, I knew they were going to miss Ty Smith. And again, it wasn't his back. The horror to me was at the end of the Kansas City game when it became clear he had exited with, 4 or 5 minutes left in the game, not because of his back, not to protect his back for the rest of the game that they had virtually in hand, but he had pulled his groin. This season for me is starting to feel like not meant to be. So, again, as I said Friday, that scares me. No Ty Smith at left tackle on the road on that fast carpet at Atlanta. And yet I wasn't thinking of Adrian Claiborne. I was thinking of Vic Beasley. I was thinking about anybody. I respect Adrian Claiborne. I liked him coming out of Iowa. I was big back on First Take talking about I would take him pretty high. Who took him? I can't remember. Tampa took him, I think, and then he wound up in Atlanta. But I didn't see him coming. I thought maybe they'd shift Vic Beasley out there on Chaz Green and just terrorize him all game. They didn't need to do that because Adrian Claiborne pretty much won a spot in the Hall of Fame today. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it because the horror for me, the disgust for me, the nausea for me, the inexplicable, just horror. It was just like watching horror. It's like Marlon Brando's character, Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now. The horror. That's what I kept thinking of. That was real horror, obviously, but this was football horror. Chaz Green couldn't get a hand on Adrian Claiborne. He couldn't get in his way even to give him a little bump here and there. Adrian Claiborne just got down in virtually a sprinter stance. On your mark, get set, sack. On your mark, get set, sack. On your mark, get set, sick. Dak Prescott from the blind side. And he would just be off to the races. Boom, you could hear the starter's gun pop, and off he'd go all the way around Chaz Green, who looked like he was trying to shuffle his feet in quicksand. I've just never seen anything quite like it. He just couldn't even touch him. Adrian Claiborne would just blow around Chaz Green before he could get in any sort of defensive sort of position and get a free run at Dak Prescott. Did Dak start to get a little gun shy? Who wouldn't? It's your blind side. You can't really see him. You can feel him. And then Dak started to feel him. And I don't know how many great escapes in the first half Dak made from him. He wound up with, 6 sacks? They had 8. So Dak Prescott went down 8 times. God knows, I don't have the final totals on hits and hurries, pressures. They were just all over him. from the outside, from the inside. The pocket would collapse. Troy Aikman took him to task late when the ball got knocked out of his hands, but his hand as he was starting to throw by guess who? Adrian Claiborne. But I don't know. He's just trying to make a play. He's just trying to stand in long enough. By that point, you've been hit so many times that your psyche's battered and it's spinning sideways. I don't know. I actually thought Dak played pretty well. Did he play great? No. Did anybody play great? No. But remember, they had Ezekiel Elliott at Denver, and they lost 42-17 because he carried it 9 times for 8 yards. And the first half felt like that. It felt like they still had Zeke at Denver, except it was at Atlanta, and they couldn't get a yard. So your offensive line with 2 Pro Bowlers, still you got a guard and a center, and they can't open up a tiny glimmer of light of a hole. They can't budge Atlanta's defensive line in the first half. And it just degenerated into Dak or bust. They got the early turnover. Let me go back quickly to the first Cowboy drive. Again, I felt like Arthur Blank was in the referee's ears. You know, again, he despises Jerry Jones, vice versa. Jerry wants the commissioner ousted. Arthur Blank is on the compensation committee. He's the head of that committee, trying to drive home a big new deal for Roger Goodell. Reports that he wants $50 million a year now and a private jet for the rest of his life and insurance for his family the rest of his life. And Jerry Jones says that's crazy. There have been anonymous quotes from other owners that it's just unseemly. It just doesn't feel right. Whatever. You got back and forth between Jerry versus Arthur Blank that was just sort of the cloud over this game. And I'm sure Arthur Blank is a happy camper tonight. I'm sure he's celebrating, but it almost felt like in that first drive that the refs were trying to put Jerry back in his place because there was an obvious face mask on Dak early. That would have been 15 yards. And then downfield, as Fox so brilliantly showed after the incomplete on whatever it was, 3rd down, Dez just got annihilated, and it was hit to the head, and it was just a penalty. It was a blatant penalty that went unseen, I guess, and uncalled for sure. So there are 2 15-yard penalties that at least would have given Dallas an early field goal, maybe a touchdown, because once Dak starts to sniff the end zone, you know what happens in the red zone, which is what we saw in the next short drive after the turnover. So they got 1 turnover on a ball that Matt Ryan threw high, and Xavier Woods made a sweet catch up off the carpet of, and boom, 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 Dak made the plays with his legs mostly to get it in the end zone. And we hadn't yet figured out that Chaz Green was about to go down into Cowboy infamy, the way, and this is for all you long-time Cowboy fans, I was there the night in 1986. It must have been in early November because I had just run the New York Marathon that day. And I was there at old Giant Stadium. I mean, it's still there, but it's what was called Giant Stadium out in the Meadowlands. I went straight from the marathon. I actually I took off my wet running clothes in the back of a cab and went out to the Meadowlands to cover the game and put on some clothes a friend of mine had brought, and he brought me a sandwich, and he just bought a ticket outside the game and went in and watched the game, I think, from the end zone, and I barely made it. I might have been a little late for kickoff, but it turned into, and you longtime fans will remember this, a 17-14 Cowboy win. I'm sorry, Giants win, Cowboy loss, thanks to 2 huge late holding calls on Phil Posderick. Remember number 75 out of Notre Dame, another infamous left tackle, but those were just holding calls, and Phil Posderick was infamous for critical key holding calls. It's like the refs were just looking for him so they could throw that yellow flag. Negated 2 big first downs by the Cowboys late. They lost 17-14 and basically sort of launched the Giants toward a Super Bowl victory that year, if memory serves, which was 86. So it would have been, I guess is that right? They won the Super Bowl in early. Was that the Phil Simms MVP Super Bowl over John Elway? I think it was in early 87. I was there. That was the Phil Pozderac night, and this was even worse. This was the Chaz Green night. Even later, they brought in Byron Bell. Again, remember, Chaz Green, I just got to drive this home to you. Chaz Green is not been a bad player. He's a third-round pick out of Florida. He's an offensive guard. He started this year as offensive guard and got hurt. But last year, he started 3 games for Ty Smith at left tackle, and I don't remember this happening. I don't know. Maybe Adrian Claiborne was just that good today. I don't know. I've just never seen anything like it because it's just nightmarish. Play after play, he's just off to the races on Dak. And Dak's just crumbling under the onslaught from his backside because you feel it, but you can't really see it. Then you take shot after shot after shot, and it felt like the whole season went up in smoke because I think it was early second quarter, again, not meant to be, Sean Lee pulled his hamstring again. I don't know. It's just been one of those years where it just feels like sometimes the injury gods say no. Sometimes the suspension gods say no, not this year, Dallas Cowboys. Dak has played not just well, he's played sensationally well this year and looked like he was poised to have a big game after a hot start today, and Sean Lee goes down. So we go from the Chaz Green nightmare to Sean Lee is out again? You're kidding me. It's something about this defense. It's not the most wildly talented defense. Obviously, the sum of it is greater than any single part of it. It's totality, it's cohesion, it's unity, it's togetherness, it's firing on all small cylinders. They don't have stars. I push for them to sign a Revis or a Cromartie. Nope. Rod Marinelli is the star of the defensive unit, but they do have one star that doesn't get sort of treated nationally like a star, plays in the shadow of Luke Kuechly, but that is Sean Lee. And he is the quarterback of the defense. He's the driving force of the defense. He is always at the right place at the right time. And we saw without Sean Lee what happened in the second half of the Rams game. We saw what happened without Sean Lee in the second half of the Packers game. They just lose cohesion. They lose their gap integrity. They're in the wrong place at the wrong time on too many crucial plays. And then they just lose heart. It's like everybody knows their leader's gone. And right away, Tevin Coleman, right out of the box, and obviously Atlanta got the ball to start the second half, and he had a big run into Cowboy territory. And if you look at it again, Jalen Smith, I love his heart, and I love his story, and I love his comeback from a knee injury that was so bad it nearly was career-wrecking for him. Great kid, smart kid, high-spirited kid, but he just still is not quite right. And he's still a baby on the football field. And go look at that play. Tell me he doesn't just go the wrong way. He goes into the right side of the line, and it just opens up a huge gap on the left. Sean Lee doesn't make those mistakes. Sean Lee would have just he would have been right in he would have stuck his nose in the middle of that play, and maybe Tevin Coleman gets 4 yards instead of I don't know what it was, 24 yards or whatever. And it set the tone for a long drive that just pretty much ended the game. It just felt like game over because it was 10-7 and a half, and all of a sudden it's 17-7, and you just didn't feel like with the Chaz Green liability at left tackle that Dallas could come back. But Dallas came out first possession, second half, and they started to do what I thought they'd do at the start of the game. Alfred Morris looked pretty good, and they go boom, boom, boom. Seemed like they completed a pass or two in there, but Alfred Morris had 3 really nice runs, which he is highly, highly capable of doing. And it looked like the offensive line just sort of got mad, came firing out just for pride's sake, and it sort of looked like Chaz Green was better run blocking than he was pass blocking. And all of a sudden they're on the doorstep, and then they try to throw a pass on third down and another big sack. And here comes Mike Nugent in, and I'm thinking, oh, no, not now. Please not now. Pushes it right. It's the upright. No good. And there's no Dan Bailey. So the clutchest kicker in pro football, the statistically best kicker in the history of pro football, is gone for God knows how long. And it just feels like the season's going up in smoke. So they go into the game today without the best running back in pro football, arguably the best left tackle in pro football, the best kicker in pro football. And Des Bryant played, I don't know how much he had to suck it up and play with whatever injury. He had one key drop in the first half in a drive that stalled. He's good for one big drop a game. Made another couple plays, but Terrence Williams hurt his ankle at the end of the game the other day after his big coming back out performance, and he caught one ball today. And I don't know what's happened to Cole Beasley. He caught two balls today. He had one big catch that got nullified by another holding penalty. God knows how many holding penalties they had because of the hellacious pass rush that was virtually unblocked. So no Cole Beasley impact, no Terrence Williams impact. Bryce Butler can get behind anybody, and he did once, and Dak threw him a nice ball, and that was the one big play of the day. And that's it. That's all you got. And you have to block and you have to run in the first half to set the tone. They had Atlanta on its heels. Trust me, the Atlanta Falcons were ready to lose today. They'd lost 4 out of 5. In those 4 games, they didn't score over 20 points. I thought they would score 20 today. They seemed to be on their heels until Sean Lee goes out. And all of a sudden, it started to open, and Matt Ryan started to regain some confidence after the early interception. If Sean Lee stays upright for the whole game, Dallas wins that game. I'm sorry. If Chaz Green could be a semblance of himself, like I don't remember this happening in the 3 starts last year. I just don't remember Chaz Green. I don't remember it being a disaster. And that happened. Right on schedule in a game you needed to win to get to 6-3 to set up the Titanic clash, Jerry World next Sunday night. Would be a week from about right now against those high-flying, fly Eagles. It's right now bye Eagles bye on a bye week. And I'm close to just congratulating them. Okay, you won the East. I'm close. I'll sleep on it and see how I feel about it. But what are they? I'm losing track. They're just running away with are they up to 8-1 now? I don't know. I don't even care. 8-1 versus what's Dallas now? 5-4. It's just too big a mountain to climb, even though Philly's schedule is not easy and they tend to come out of bye weeks as they did last year, and the wheels start to come off instead of come on. They don't start to roll, they start to wobble. But we'll see about that. That's just a gut feeling, and yet it's supposed to be Dak's big day to show he could win a game without Zeke, but he can't win it without Ty Smith, and he can't win it without a first half of blocking from 2 Pro Bowl other offensive linemen at guard and center who just got their butts kicked in the first half. And he can't win it with no T-Will if, in fact, his ankle was really bothering him today. And Alfred Morris just couldn't get on track in the first half. And Rod Smith, after all that I'd heard, I'd never really seen him play. I hear about practice this and practice that. I didn't see hitting the holes with the authority that I thought I would. I don't know. I saw a guy who's really not ever played in an NFL game to speak of. He caught a couple nice balls, little dump passes. But I didn't see burst, power, authority, urgency. I just didn't see it from him. I didn't see that guy that I thought I might see given all the reports from practice. And too much of the game, I didn't see the Cowboy pass rush. I didn't see urgency, or maybe they just got their butts blocked. I don't know. They had one big breakthrough sack on 3rd down, first half. But other than that, I thought they protected Matt Ryan pretty well. And he regained his confidence, and he regained his toughness because he stood in and took whatever licks he had to take. And he got hot in the second half, and I forget what, did he even miss one throw in the second half? I can't remember. I know he had, seems like 11 in a row. But in the end, it just felt like a lost cause. And congratulations, Atlanta. It's a game they, quote unquote, had to win. But I also thought it was a game Dallas had to win. I mean, who's to say? So in the end, I'm just disgusted. I'm disheartened. I'm distraught. I'm dumbfounded. They finally brought Byron Bell into the game. It's a guy who's bounced around the league, undrafted, free agent. He's played some ball. I mean, he's started some games. I think he started at Carolina, and then I'm afraid he went somewhere else and started for a while. So he's got some experience. First couple of plays, he actually hung in and got his feet in front of Adrian Claiborne and gave Dak a little time. And I started to see the Dak I thought I'd see the whole game. Made 2 or 3 nice throws to Jason Witten, one to Cole Beasley. I started to think, okay, that's it. And then he started getting his butt kicked. And he started giving up inside rushes after everything was outside. And so Dak ended up losing the ball twice on a late play in the first half, late play in the second half, which is going to hurt his QBR, which is going to hurt his all-time. He was on this all-time record pace of 52 total touchdowns generated through 25 games to only 13 total turnovers. That's fumbles lost and interceptions. And he didn't have an interception today, threw a couple of balls that could have been, but he did lose 2 fumbles, so that will hurt that ratio. His ratio was 4-1. Touchdowns generated to total turnovers, 4-1, and it was the all-time pace ahead of, I believe, Aaron Rodgers, way ahead of Aaron Rodgers' pace, but obviously Aaron Rodgers played much longer. So it's going to be a tough day on Undisputed tomorrow. But I don't know if the Cowboys try to sign somebody off the street to play left tackle. I just don't know how Chaz Green could be that bad. I didn't think he was that bad. I just knew it was going to be a big loss, both run blocking and pass blocking. And in the end, Alfred Morris is pretty good. They finally got that going. Maybe it just took a while to reestablish the chemistry. But in the end, I mean, Sean Lee wasn't even trying to do anything on his hamstring. And obviously that was the injury that kept him out through those games that, as I talked about earlier, the Rams and the Packers games. Hamstrings are just, they're the worst. They're terrible. Not as bad as an Achilles, but they're the worst as far as a pull goes. And it just looks like he's out for another, God knows, month. So you take Sean Lee out, and you take Zeke out, you take Ty Smith out. I don't know if he's got a torn groin. I don't know. It just feels like there's not much left of the season. Could they suck it up and pull off a big upset of the Eagles? Maybe. Now that they know what their problems are, could they fix their problems? Maybe. But I'm pretty deflated. Usually, Cowboy fans, I got your back. I'm going to sleep on it. I'm going to suck it up. I'm going to fight back. I love to fight back because Shannon Sharpe is often so vulnerable when he thinks he's so invincible. So, as usual, I'll tear him up tomorrow. I can out-football talk him any day. He's in the Hall of Fame, but we know what the truth is. We know who knows the most football, who can see and feel the most football, and I will bring it tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Fox Sports 1. I'll predict, I'll tear Shannon apart in the what we call the A block, our first topic tomorrow, which should go from about 9:30 to 10 Eastern Time. And then we certainly will dive into all the other stories. Here come the Saints. Here come the Vikings. I'm a Case Keenum fan. I liked him in college. I think they're pretty good. I think they're a big threat in the East, even to Pennsylvania, wince in a lifetime. All he does is wince. Carson Wentz, even to the Eagles. I'm not writing off the Cowboys, but if nobody's healthy, all the critical pieces are hurt, except for Dak. It's going to be hard to make a case that they could do more than maybe fight for a wild card, hope to ease into the playoffs. Then if they started getting people back, if they could just get in the tournament, I'd give them a shot because I always like this team on the road even more than I like it at home. So, on to Tom Brady, on to the Broncos. I like Brady to win tonight over the Broncos. We'll certainly be talking about Tom Brady tomorrow. This is his personal house of horrors. He's 3-7 there, but he did win kind of a blah game there last year to avenge the previous year's loss in the snow on that Sunday night. So I'm sure it won't be a great game because he never has great numbers, does Tom Brady, at Denver against that defense. Mike Shannon, we had on Undisputed on Friday, just authoritatively and convincingly picked the Broncos, that their defense will just bedevil Tom Brady, and it's their night to shine and bounce back and overcome their lack of quarterbacks. It'll be Brock Osweiler, at least for a while. Who knows? Maybe Trevor Siemian will relieve him at some point, the way Byron Bell relieved Chaz Green. So I'm going to suck it up. I'm going to be ready for tomorrow. I'll see you in the morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Undisputed on Fox Sports 1. And Shannon Sharpe, you better be real sharp tomorrow because I am coming for you. Thank you for watching. Good night, Facebook.